Hi, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be reading the first book of The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell by Chris Collifer. This is a map provided in the book so you can reference throughout the story and use it anytime you read. To Grandma for being my first editor and giving me the best writing advice I've ever received. Christopher, I think you should wait until you're done with elementary school before worrying about being a failed writer. Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again by C.S. Lewis. Prologue. The Queen's Visit. The dungeon was a miserable place. Light was scarce and flickered from the torches bolted to the stone walls. Fuel-smelling water dripped inside from the moat circling the palace above. Large rats chased each other across the floor, searching for food. This was no place for a queen. It was just past midnight and all was quiet except for the occasional rustle of a chain. Through the heavy silence, a single set of footsteps echoed throughout the walls as someone climbed down the spiral steps into the dungeon. A young woman emerged down the steps dressed head to toe in a long emerald cloak. She cautiously made her way past the row of cells, sparkling the interest of the prisoners. Inside, with every step she took, her pace became slower and slower, and her heart beat faster and faster. The prisoners were arranged according to time. The deeper she walked into the dungeon, the cruel and the more dangerous the criminals became. Her sights were set on the cell at the very end of the hall, where a prisoner of special interest was being watched by a large private guard. The woman had come to ask a question. It was a simple question, but it consumed her thoughts every day. She kept lying awake most nights, and was the only thing she dreamed about with her little sleep she managed. Only one person could give her the answer she needed, and that person was in the other side of the prison bars. I wish to see her, the cloaked woman said to the guard. No one is allowed to see her, the guard said, almost amused by the request. I'm on strict orders from the royal family. The woman lowered her hood and revealed her face. Her skin was as pale as snow. Her hair was as dark as coal. Her eyes were as green as the forest. Her beauty was known throughout the land, and her story was known even beyond that. Your Majesty, please forgive me, the stunned guard apologized. He quickly bent into an overly pronounced bow. I wasn't expecting anyone from the palace. No apology necessary, she said, but please do not speak of my presence here tonight. Of course, the guard said, nodding. The women faced the bars, waiting for them to be raised, but the guard hesitated. Are you sure you want to go in there, Your Highness? The guard said. There's no telling what she's capable of. I must see her, the woman said, at any cost. The guard began turning a large circular level, and the bars and cell rose. The women took a deep breath and continued past them. She journeyed through the longer, darker hallway where a series of bars and barriers were raised, and then lowered after she walked past them. Finally, she reached the end of the hall. The last set of bars were raised, and she stepped into the cell. The prisoner was a woman. She sat on a stool in the center of the cell and stared up at a small window. The prisoner waited a few moments before acknowledging the visitor behind her. It was the first visitor she had ever had, and she knew who it was without looking. There was only one person it could be. Hello, Snow White, the principal said softly. Hello, stepmother, Snow White replied with the nervous quiver. I hope you are well. Although Snow White had researched exactly what she wanted to say, she now finding it nearly impossible to speak. I heard that you're the queen now, the stepmother said. It's true, said Snow White. I inherited the throne as my father intended. So, to what do I owe this honor? Have you come to watch me wither away? The stepmother said. There was such authority and power to her voice. It was known to make the strongest of men melt like ice. On the contrary, Snow White said, I've come to understand. To understand what? The stepmother said harshly. Why? Snow White hesitated. Why did you do what why you did what you did. And with this finally said, Snow White felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had finally asked the question that had been so strongly on her mind. Half of the challenge was over. There are so many things about this world that you don't understand, the stepmother said and turned to her stepdaughter. It was the first time in a long time that Snow White had seen her stepmother's face. It was the face of a woman who has possessed beauty without flaw, and the face of a woman who had been once a queen. Now the woman was sitting before her was just a prisoner whose looks have faded into a permanent sorrowful scroll.
That may be, Snow White said, but can you blame me for trying to find some sort of reason behind your actions? The recent years of Snow White's life had become the most scandalous of the kingdom's royal history. Everyone knew the story of the fair princess who'd taken refuge with the 7 dwarfs while hiding from her jealous stepmother. Everyone knew of the infamous poison apple and the dashing prince who had saved Snow White from a false death.
The story was simple, but the aftermath was not. Even with a new marriage and a monarchy to occupy her time, Snow White found herself constantly wondering if the theories of her stepmother's vanities were true. Something inside the new queen refused to believe that someone could be so malicious. "Do you know what they're calling you out there?" Snow White asked. "Outside these prison walls, the world refers to you as the evil queen."
Thank you for watching. To inform you, we're going to be reading short parts of the book every video. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this with your friends. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye.